The message had arrived 3 years ago, burning through Earth's communications networks like wildfire. It came from somewhere beyond the edge of the solar system, carried on frequencies that human science barely understood. The translation had taken months, but the meaning was clear. Humanity was invited to join something called the Galactic Trade Consortium. Dr. Emma Wells pressed her face against the small porthole of the UEA vessel Horizon's Edge. Watching Earth shrink to a pale, blue dot behind them, she had been chosen as the mission's chief xenobiologist, one of 12 humans selected to represent their entire species. The weight of that responsibility felt heavier than the artificial gravity that kept her boots planted on the deck. The selection process had been brutal. Every nation on Earth had nominated their best and brightest. Scientists, diplomats, engineers, military officers, linguists, and philosophers had all competed for these 12 seats. Emma still couldn't believe she had made the cut. Her specialty was theoretical alien biology, a field that had existed only in imagination until 3 years ago. Down in the ship's common area, the other 11 members of the delegation were going through their final preparations. Commander Rick Torres, a veteran of the Mars colonies, was reviewing security protocols with Lieutenant Beth Hayes. Dr. Omar Hassan, their lead physicist, was deep in conversation with engineer Anna Kowalski about the alien communication device they had been instructed to bring. Diplomat Robert Liu was practicing phrases in what linguists hoped might be a universal trade language, while cultural anthropologist David Kim made notes about potential social protocols. The remaining team members were equally impressive. Dr. Lisa Wong specialized in xenogeology. Captain Paul Reeves brought decades of deep space navigation experience. Communications expert Maria Santos had cracked 3 of the alien message formats. Philosopher Dr. James Wright was there to help with first contact ethics and medical. Officer Dr. Susan Park would monitor the team's health in an alien environment. Emma had read all their files. Each person represented humanity's best hope of making a good first impression. They carried samples of Earth's greatest achievements, works of art, scientific discoveries, mathematical proofs, music, literature, and technological innovations. The cargo hold also contained gifts, rare metals, organic compounds unique to Earth, and detailed information about human civilization. The journey to the meeting point would take 6 months in cryosleep. The aliens had provided coordinates for a space station orbiting a gas giant in what humans called the Kepler 186 system. Long-range telescopes had confirmed the station's existence, a massive structure that dwarfed anything humans had ever built. It was their first proof that the invitation was real. Emma made her way to the preparation chamber where Dr. Park was conducting final medical checks. The cryosleep process was routine by now, used on all long-distance space missions. But this time felt different. When they woke up, they would be farther from home than any human had ever traveled. They would be the first to see alien faces, hear alien languages, walk through alien corridors. Commander Torres gathered the team for a final briefing. His weathered face showed the strain of command, but his voice remained steady. The mission parameters were simple in theory. Establish peaceful contact, assess the aliens' intentions, negotiate beneficial trade agreements, and return to Earth with new allies and advanced technology. The reality would be far more complex. Earth's governments had spent 3 years debating what humanity should offer and what they hoped to gain. Some wanted advanced weapons technology to defend against potential threats. Others pushed for medical advances that could cure diseases and extend human life. The scientists wanted knowledge, the engineers wanted better tools, and the diplomats wanted security guarantees. Emma had her own hopes. As a xenobiologist, she dreamed of studying alien life forms, understanding how evolution had shaped intelligence on other worlds. The possibilities were endless. What did alien ecosystems look like? How did non-human minds approach problems? What could humans learn from species that had evolved under completely different conditions? Dr. Hassan was equally excited about the physics implications. The aliens had demonstrated faster-than-light communication, something human science said was impossible. Their technology could revolutionize energy production, transportation, and manufacturing. A single breakthrough could advance human civilization by centuries. The diplomatic challenges worried Robert Liu more than the technical ones. Humans had a long history of misunderstanding each other, despite sharing the same planet and similar biology. How would they communicate with beings who might think in completely alien ways? What if human customs offended the aliens? What if their offers of friendship were misinterpreted as threats? Captain Reeves focused on practical concerns. The Horizon's Edge was humanity's most advanced starship, but compared to the aliens' technology, it might seem primitive. The navigation systems could barely calculate the course to the meeting point. If something went wrong, they would be stranded light years from home with no hope of rescue. As the team settled into their cryo-sleep pods, Emma felt a mixture of excitement and terror that she suspected they all shared. They were about to make history. The next time they opened their eyes, humanity would no longer be alone in the universe. The ship's automated systems took over as the crew entered suspended animation. For 6 months, the Horizon's Edge would coast through the void, carrying its precious cargo of human representatives toward an uncertain future. Earth continued to spin behind them, unaware that the fate of their species might depend on what happened at that distant space station. The last thing Emma saw before the cryosleep drugs took effect was the stars outside her pod's tiny window. They looked the same as they always had from Earth, but now she knew that some of those points of light were home to other thinking beings. Soon she would meet them face to face. The thought both thrilled and terrified her as consciousness faded away. Somewhere ahead in the darkness, alien minds were preparing for humanity's arrival, making plans that none of the sleeping humans could imagine. The awakening process felt like drowning in reverse. Emma's consciousness surfaced slowly from the depths of cryosleep, her body fighting against 6 months of forced hibernation. Around her, the other team members were experiencing the same disorienting return to awareness. Dr. Park moved between the pods, checking vital signs and administering recovery medications. Through the ship's viewports, the sight that greeted them made every discomfort worthwhile. The alien space station hung against the backdrop of a massive gas giant, its swirling orange and red storms visible even from this distance. The station itself defied human architectural understanding. Crystalline spires twisted around metallic cores, while sections that appeared to be made of liquid light pulsed with rhythmic energy patterns. Commander Torres was the first to recover enough to speak clearly. His voice came out as a croak, but his words carried the weight of history. The station was real. They had reached their destination. Humanity's first contact with alien intelligence was about to begin. Captain Reeves worked with the navigation systems to bring the Horizon's Edge closer to the designated docking port. The station's scale became more apparent as they approached. What had looked like a single structure from a distance was actually a collection of interconnected modules, each one larger than Earth's biggest space installations. Whoever built this had engineering capabilities far beyond human achievement. The first aliens they encountered were waiting at the airlock. Dr. Hassan had theorized about what extraterrestrial life might look like, but reality exceeded all expectations. 3 beings stood in the docking chamber, each representing a completely different evolutionary path. The first resembled a living crystal formation, roughly humanoid in shape, but composed of what appeared to be translucent geometric segments. Light moved through its body in patterns that might have been communication, or simply the alien equivalent of breathing. When it spoke, the words came from devices attached to the chamber walls rather than any visible mouth. The second alien was aquatic in nature, contained within a mobility suit filled with blue-green fluid. Tentacles moved gracefully within the transparent container, while bioluminescent patches along its body flickered in complex sequences. Its voice was melodic, almost musical in quality. The third being was the most unsettling. It appeared to be made of pure energy, held together by some kind of containment field. Its form shifted constantly, sometimes resembling a human silhouette, sometimes taking on completely abstract shapes. When it communicated, the words seemed to form directly in the humans' minds rather than being heard through their ears. Emma found herself cataloging every detail. These three species had evolved under completely different conditions, yet all had achieved intelligence and advanced technology. The implications for xenobiology were staggering. Life was clearly far more adaptable than anyone had imagined. The crystalline being, which identified itself as cliques of the Helix Collective, served as the primary spokesman. Through translation devices, it explained that 7 different species made up the Galactic Trade Consortium. They had been monitoring Earth's radio transmissions for decades, watching humanity's technological development with interest. Robert Liu stepped forward to begin formal diplomatic contact. He had prepared for this moment for years, but standing face-to-face with alien intelligence still left him struggling for words. The prepared speeches seemed inadequate when confronted with beings who had never seen a sunrise on Earth or felt rain on their skin. The aquatic being, called Depth Singer by the translation system, explained the purpose of their gathering. Consortium evaluated potential new member species based on their technological capabilities, social development, and potential contributions to galactic civilization. Humanity had shown promise in all 3 areas. What followed was unlike any diplomatic negotiation in human history. The aliens conducted tours of different sections of the station, each one showcasing technologies that seemed like magic to human eyes. Rooms where matter was assembled from pure energy, transportation systems that moved beings instantly across vast distances, and computing systems that processed information at quantum speeds. Dr. Hassan nearly fainted when shown the station's power systems. The reactors were compact units no larger than shipping containers, yet each one produced more energy than Earth's entire electrical grid. The physics involved seemed to violate several fundamental laws that humans considered unbreakable. Anna Kowalski was equally amazed by the engineering. The station maintained perfect environmental conditions for 7 different species simultaneously. Gravity, atmosphere, temperature, and even lighting could be adjusted instantly in any section. The material science required for such flexibility was beyond human comprehension, but the humans began to notice something unexpected. During technical demonstrations, they found themselves asking questions that seemed to surprise their alien hosts. When shown an energy distribution system, Anna suggested modifications that could improve efficiency. When Emma examined biological samples from different worlds, she proposed new classification methods that the aliens found intriguing. Most surprising was Dr. Wright's philosophical discussions with the energy being called luminant primary. The alien seemed fascinated by human concepts of individual identity and creative expression. Its own species thought collectively, sharing consciousness across vast networks. The idea of separate minds working independently toward common goals was foreign but compelling. Commander Torres maintained professional composure throughout the tours, but Emma could see his tactical mind working. He was cataloging security measures, noting potential weaknesses, and assessing threats. Old military habits died hard, even in the face of overwhelming technological superiority. Dr. Park discovered that alien medical technology could extend human lifespans by centuries while eliminating most diseases. The implications for Earth were staggering. Billions of people could live longer, healthier lives. But the technology was so advanced that understanding it would take human scientists decades of study. As the day progressed, Emma began to sense something beneath the surface of these friendly exchanges. The aliens seemed genuinely interested in human perspectives, but their questions were probing deeper than simple curiosity might explain. They asked about human problem-solving methods, creative processes, and approaches to innovation. Captain Reeves noticed it too during discussions about spaceflight technology. The aliens had mastered faster-than-light travel thousands of years ago, yet they seemed fascinated by humanity's recent achievements in interplanetary exploration. They asked detailed questions about how humans had overcome specific engineering challenges. Maria Santos picked up on linguistic patterns in the alien communications. Despite using translation devices, she could sense emotional undertones in their speech. There was excitement when humans suggested new ideas, but also something that might have been desperation. By the end of their first day on the station, the 12 humans had seen wonders beyond imagination. They had walked through gardens where Plants from a dozen worlds grew together in impossible harmony. They had witnessed manufacturing processes that could create any material from basic atomic components. They had been offered technologies that could transform human civilization overnight. But Emma couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. The aliens were too interested in human creativity, too eager to understand how humans approached problems. It felt less like a diplomatic exchange and more like an evaluation. As they were escorted to their quarters for the night, she caught Commander Torres's eye. His slight nod confirmed her suspicions. Whatever was happening here, it wasn't the simple trade negotiation they had been led to expect. Maria Santos had always been good at reading between the lines. 20 years of communications work had taught her to listen not just to words, but to the spaces between them. During their second day on the alien station, those spaces began telling a disturbing story. The translation devices were sophisticated beyond human understanding, but Maria noticed they occasionally struggled with certain concepts. Words related to innovation, breakthrough thinking, and radical solutions seemed to create processing delays. It was as if the alien languages lacked efficient ways to express these ideas. While the rest of the team attended formal presentations about galactic trade routes, Maria volunteered to help calibrate the translation systems. The aliens seemed pleased by her offer, granting her access to their communication networks. What she discovered made her blood run cold. The Galactic Trade Consortium was ancient. Some member species had been cooperating for over 50,000 years. They had achieved technological marvels that seemed like magic to humans, but those achievements had come at a cost. Innovation had slowed to a crawl thousands of years ago. The alien civilizations had evolved through cooperation and consensus. When different species encountered problems, they shared solutions until everyone reached the same technological level. This created stable, peaceful societies, but also eliminated the competitive pressure that drove advancement. Maria's discovery came through archived communication logs she was supposedly cleaning for translation errors. The files contained discussions between consortium leaders spanning several centuries. The pattern was clear. Their technology had plateaued. They recycled the same solutions, refined existing methods, but rarely developed anything truly new. She brought her findings to Dr. Hassan during the evening meal period. His reaction confirmed her worst fears. Throughout the day, he had been shown energy systems, propulsion technology, and manufacturing processes. All were incredibly advanced, but none were recent developments. The aliens were using variations of technologies they had perfected millennia ago. Anna Kowalski had noticed the same thing from an engineering perspective. The station's systems were masterpieces of refinement, but they lacked the experimental elements that characterized cutting-edge human technology. Everything was optimized for stability and efficiency rather than pushing boundaries. Commander, Torres called an emergency meeting in their quarters. Security protocols established on Earth required regular assessment of their situation, and the evidence was becoming impossible to ignore. The consortium hadn't invited humanity for trade negotiations. They had invited them for something else entirely. Dr. Wright had been conducting philosophical exchanges with various alien species throughout the day. His conversations revealed the depth of the problem. The consortium species had achieved perfect social harmony by eliminating conflict and competition. But those same forces had driven innovation throughout human history. The crystalline helix thought collectively, with each individual connected to a vast network mind. New ideas were immediately shared and evaluated by millions of consciousnesses. This prevented bad decisions, but it also meant that radical concepts were quickly moderated into safe, acceptable forms. The aquatic depths had evolved in an environment where cooperation was essential for survival. Their entire culture was based on consensus and shared decision-making. They could solve complex problems through collaboration, but they struggled with the kind of individual brilliance that led to breakthrough discoveries. Even more revealing were Emma's biological observations. The alien species had eliminated most forms of internal competition. Natural selection had been replaced by careful genetic management. Evolution had essentially stopped for all consortium members. They were stable, healthy, and long-lived. But they had lost the chaotic creative force that came from struggle and adaptation. Captain Reeves discovered the most damning evidence during a technical discussion about spacecraft design. The aliens had been using the same basic propulsion systems for over 10,000 years. When he suggested modifications based on recent human innovations in ion drives, the alien engineers were fascinated but seemed incapable of taking the next logical steps. They could understand his explanations perfectly, but they couldn't extrapolate beyond what he explicitly told them. The mental flexibility required for true innovation had been bred out of their species or lost through millennia of consensus-based thinking. Dr. Park's medical examinations revealed that alien biology reflected this same pattern. Their immune systems were highly refined but inflexible. They could resist known diseases perfectly, but new pathogens would likely devastate their populations. They had traded adaptability for stability. The revelation came together piece by piece throughout their third day on the station. During a formal presentation about consortium history, Clix inadvertently confirmed their suspicions. The crystalline being spoke proudly about thousands of years of peace and cooperation, about the elimination of war, competition, and social conflict. But Emma heard what wasn't being said. The consortium had achieved utopia at the cost of progress. They had solved all their major problems and then lost the ability to solve new ones. They were trapped in their own success. That evening, Luminant Primary approached Dr. Wright for another philosophical discussion. The energy being's questions became more direct and urgent. It asked about human creativity, about how individuals could think thoughts that had never been thought before. The desperation in its communications was unmistakable. The truth hit Wright, like a physical blow. The consortium wasn't just interested in human creativity, they were dependent on it. They had reached the limits of their own innovative capacity and were desperately seeking outside sources of new ideas. Robert Liu confirmed the final piece of the puzzle during late-night discussions with consortium diplomats. The aliens spoke carefully about humanity's potential contributions to galactic civilization, but their real interest became clear. They wanted humans to solve problems that had been stagnating for centuries. Energy efficiency improvements that had eluded their best minds for millennia, manufacturing techniques that could revolutionize production, social innovations that could prevent the stagnation that plagued all advanced civilizations. The consortium saw humanity as a source of fresh thinking that could reinvigorate their static cultures. But there was a darker implication. If the consortium was bringing humans into their society specifically for their innovative capacity, what would happen to that capacity over time? How long before human creativity was absorbed into the same consensus-based systems that had neutered alien innovation? Emma stared out at the stars through her quarter's viewport. Humanity's chaotic, competitive nature had always been seen as a weakness that needed to be overcome as the species matured. But their destructive tendencies were intimately connected to their creative ones. Competition drove innovation. Conflict sparked new solutions. Individual brilliance often emerged from refusing to accept group consensus. The aliens had achieved everything humans claimed to want: peace, cooperation, technological mastery, and social harmony. But they had paid for it with the very qualities that made progress possible. Commander Torres was already thinking tactically. If the consortium needed human creativity badly enough to reach across the galaxy, they were in a position of weakness, despite their technological superiority. But that also meant they wouldn't let humanity leave unchanged. They had invested too much in this contact to accept simple trade agreements. The 12 humans faced a terrible realization. They hadn't been invited as equals to join a galactic community. They had been identified as a resource to be harvested. The question now was whether they could find a way home before the aliens made their true intentions clear. The formal meeting took place in the station's central chamber, a vast space where representatives from all 7 consortium species had gathered. Emma watched as beings of crystal, energy, and biological matter arranged themselves around a conference table that shifted its shape to accommodate their different needs. Clix began with what sounded like a prepared speech about humanity's potential membership in the galactic community. The words were diplomatic, full of references to mutual benefit and peaceful cooperation. But Emma could see through the careful language to the reality beneath. The consortium's offer was breathtaking in scope. Humanity would receive advanced technology that could solve every major problem facing Earth, clean energy that could power civilization for millennia, medical treatments that could eliminate disease and extend life for centuries, transportation systems that could carry humans to the stars. But the price was equally staggering. Earth's population would be relocated to designated worlds throughout consortium space. Humans would be integrated into existing alien societies, where they would serve as what cliques politely termed innovation specialists. Their role would be to provide fresh perspectives on problems that had stymied alien minds for generations. Robert Liu listened with growing horror as the details became clear. Humans would be scattered across the galaxy in small groups, prevented from maintaining their own culture or developing independent technology. They would be kept comfortable and healthy, but essentially enslaved to provide their captors with new ideas. Dr. Hassan understood the technical implications immediately. Humanity would never be allowed to develop its own advanced technology. They would remain dependent on alien systems, unable to leave or resist their new role. It was a sophisticated trap, disguised as a generous offer. Commander Torres maintained his diplomatic facade while his mind raced through tactical assessments. The 12 humans were hopelessly outnumbered and outgunned. The station's security systems were automated and integrated throughout every section. Any attempt at resistance seemed futile. But Anna Kowalski had been studying those same automated systems for days. Her engineer's eye had identified something the aliens themselves seemed to have forgotten. Their technology was so refined and stable that it had become inflexible. The same consensus-based thinking that stifled innovation had created security systems that couldn't adapt to unexpected situations. While the formal negotiations continued, Anna discreetly accessed maintenance panels throughout the station. The EY aliens had given her permission to study their engineering during the tour, and she had used that access to map the station's critical systems. More importantly, she had identified vulnerabilities that the alien designers had never considered. The consortium species thought in terms of cooperation and coordination. Their security systems were designed to prevent accidents and mechanical failures, not deliberate sabotage by creative minds. They had safeguards against every type of problem their collective intelligence could imagine, but human imagination worked differently. Dr. Park created the diversion they needed. During the medical discussions, she expressed concerns about human biology's compatibility with alien environments. She requested detailed scans of all 12 team members, ostensibly to ensure their safety during the integration process. The aliens were happy to oblige, moving the humans to medical facilities throughout the station. This separated them from the main conference chamber and gave Anna access to the systems she needed to reach. Maria Santos used her communication skills to coordinate the escape attempt. The translation devices that had given her access to alien records could also be used to send coded messages between team members. She transmitted instructions using corrupted data packets that looked like translation errors, but actually contained detailed plans. Captain Reeves prepared the Horizon's Edge for immediate departure. The ship's systems had been connected to the station's power grid for routine maintenance, but he quietly began isolating their vessel's critical functions. If they were going to run, they would need every advantage speed could provide. Emma played her role perfectly, asking detailed questions about the biological adaptations humans would need to survive on different alien worlds. Her scientific curiosity seemed natural to their hosts, who didn't realize she was gathering intelligence about consortium weaknesses. Dr. Wright engaged the alien philosophers in increasingly complex discussions about consciousness and individual identity. His questions seemed academic, but he was actually probing for information about how the different species coordinated their collective thinking. Every detail might prove useful in disrupting their communication systems. The plan Anna had developed was audacious in its simplicity. The station's automated systems were designed to maintain perfect environmental conditions for all 7 species simultaneously. But those same systems had never been programmed to handle deliberate interference from a mind that thought outside their parameters. She began by introducing subtle errors into the atmospheric processing systems. Nothing dangerous, just small inconsistencies that would trigger automatic correction protocols. The station's central computer began dedicating resources to solving these minor problems. Next, she accessed the gravity generation systems and created fluctuations too small for the occupants to notice but large enough to be detected by sensors. More automatic systems came online to investigate and correct these anomalies. The transportation network was her third target. She introduced routing conflicts that forced the system to constantly recalculate optimal pathways. The delays were minimal, but the processing overhead was significant. One by one, Anna overwhelmed the station's automated systems with problems they were programmed to solve but couldn't prevent. The computer intelligence that ran the station became increasingly focused on maintaining stability, drawing resources away from security and communication systems. Commander Torres received Maria's signal and put the final phase into motion. He politely requested permission to return to his ship to retrieve additional cultural artifacts for the aliens to examine. The request seemed reasonable, and the distracted station systems approved his departure without proper verification. Once aboard the Horizon's Edge, Torres activated emergency protocols that severed all connections to the station and began powering up the engines. Captain Reeves had already programmed their escape route, aiming for the system's edge where they could engage faster than light travel. The chaos began when Anna triggered her final sabotage program. The station's maintenance system suddenly detected critical failures throughout the structure. Automated emergency protocols activated simultaneously in dozens of sections, creating cascading system failures that overwhelmed the central computer. In the confusion, the 11 remaining humans made their break. They scattered throughout the station, creating multiple security incidents that the automated systems couldn't prioritize properly. Dr. Hassan and Anna headed for the reactor bay, while Emma and Dr. Park made for the biological research sections. The aliens were slow to respond to the crisis. Their collective thinking processes were disrupted by the multiple simultaneous emergencies. By the time they realized the humans were escaping rather than seeking shelter, it was too late to coordinate an effective response. Anna reached the reactor bay and activated the emergency release protocols she had discovered in the maintenance systems. 60 compact fusion reactors, each worth centuries of human technological development, were jettisoned from the station according to their own safety procedures. Emma grabbed terabytes of biological and technological data from the research sections. The alien computer systems were too busy dealing with system failures to prevent unauthorized access to their databases. Captain Reeves maneuvered the Horizon's Edge to collect both the escaping humans and the ejected reactors. The ship's cargo bay was barely large enough to accommodate the stolen technology, but human ingenuity found ways to secure the precious cargo. As the last team member reached the ship, the alien station finally began restoring order to its systems. But the humans were already accelerating away, pushing their engines beyond safe limits in their desperate flight toward freedom. Behind them, the consortium species watched in shock as their carefully planned acquisition of humanity's creative potential disappeared into the void, taking with it technology that represented thousands of years of alien advancement. The humans had done something none of them had thought possible. They had turned the consortium's own systems against them and escaped with treasures beyond measure. The journey home took 8 months instead of 6. The Horizon's Edge was never designed to carry 60 fusion reactors, each one weighing several tons and generating energy fields that interfered with the ship's navigation systems. Captain Reeves had to constantly adjust their course to compensate for the gravitational anomalies created by their stolen cargo. Emma spent much of the trip analyzing the alien biological data she had downloaded during their escape. The information was staggering in scope, containing genetic sequences from thousands of species across dozens of worlds. But the more she studied it, the more disturbing patterns emerged. Every consortium species showed signs of genetic stagnation. Their DNA had been so carefully managed and refined over millennia that natural variation had nearly disappeared. They were biological masterpieces, perfectly adapted to their environments but utterly incapable of further evolution. Dr. Hassan was equally disturbed by his analysis of the alien technology. The fusion reactors represented a quantum leap beyond anything Earth had achieved, but they were also dead ends. The alien approach to energy generation was so refined that no further improvement seemed possible. It was technological perfection that had eliminated its own potential for advancement. Commander Torres compiled detailed intelligence reports about consortium capabilities and weaknesses. The aliens possessed overwhelming military superiority in terms of individual ship performance, but their forces were designed for defense and peacekeeping rather than aggressive warfare. More importantly, their tactical thinking showed the same consensus-based limitations that affected all their problem-solving. The real shock came when Maria Santos finished decoding the communication logs she had copied from the alien station. The consortium had been watching humanity for over a century, not just decades as they claimed. They had observed human conflicts, studied human innovation, and identified specific individuals whose creative thinking impressed them. The 12-person, diplomatic mission hadn't been Earth's idea at all. The aliens had carefully manipulated human governments into selecting exactly the team they wanted. Every member of the expedition had been chosen for specific abilities that the consortium hoped to exploit. But they had underestimated the very creativity they sought to harvest. Human innovation wasn't just about having new ideas. It was about implementing those ideas in ways that defied conventional thinking. The escape from the alien station proved that human ingenuity could overcome seemingly impossible odds. When Earth finally appeared in their viewports, the 12 humans faced their greatest challenge yet. How could they explain what they had discovered? How could they convince Earth's leaders that the greatest threat to humanity came disguised as the greatest opportunity? The reception committee that met them at Luna Station included representatives from every major Earth government. Military commanders, scientists, diplomats, and intelligence officials had all gathered to hear the report that would determine humanity's future among the stars. Robert Liu delivered the initial briefing, carefully, explaining the true nature of their contact with the Galactic Trade Consortium. The assembled officials listened in stunned silence as he described the aliens' plan to scatter humanity across the galaxy as creative slaves. But it was Dr. Hassan's technical presentation that truly shocked the audience. The 60 stolen fusion reactors represented technology centuries beyond Earth's current capabilities. A single reactor could power an entire continent without producing any waste or pollution. Together, they could transform human civilization overnight. Anna Kowalski's engineering analysis revealed even greater possibilities. By studying the reactor designs, human scientists could develop their own advanced energy systems within decades instead of centuries. The aliens had inadvertently provided Earth with the keys to technological independence. Emma's biological data painted an equally complex picture. The alien genetic information could revolutionize human medicine, agriculture, and biotechnology. But it also served as a warning about the dangers of pursuing genetic perfection at the cost of adaptability. The debate that followed lasted for weeks. Some officials wanted to reverse engineer the alien technology immediately and use it to improve life on Earth. Others argued for caution, fearing that the consortium would eventually come to reclaim their stolen property. Military leaders focused on the security implications. Earth now possessed advanced technology but lacked the weapons to defend it. The consortium could send a single ship to destroy humanity's entire space-based infrastructure. Peaceful coexistence seemed impossible after the theft of such valuable technology. Commander Torres presented the most sobering assessment. The aliens would not forgive this insult to their carefully laid plans. They had invested too much time and effort in acquiring human creativity to simply abandon their goals. Earth had perhaps a decade before the consortium responded with overwhelming force. The decision came from an unexpected source. Dr. Wright's philosophical analysis of the alien cultures revealed a critical weakness. The consortium species were psychologically incapable of accepting failure. Their collective thinking processes couldn't adapt to situations where their careful plans went wrong. This meant they would respond predictably, probably by sending larger, forces to overwhelm Earth's defenses through sheer superiority. But predictable enemies could be outmaneuvered by unpredictable tactics. Human military thinking, shaped by millennia of warfare and competition, could exploit the aliens' rigid decision-making processes. Earth's governments reached a unanimous conclusion that surprised everyone, including the 12 returning heroes. Instead of hiding or attempting diplomacy, humanity would take the offensive. They would use the stolen alien technology to build weapons and ships, then carry the fight to the consortium before their enemies could organize a proper response. The logic was brutal but sound. The aliens wanted human creativity for their own purposes. Instead, they would face that same creativity turned against them in ways their collective intelligence couldn't predict or counter. Construction began, immediately at hidden facilities throughout the solar system. The fusion reactors were reverse-engineered and improved with human innovations the aliens had never considered. New ship designs combined alien energy systems with human tactical thinking, creating vessels that were both advanced and unpredictable. Emma found herself leading a biological warfare research program, using alien genetic data to develop weapons that could target consortium species specifically. It wasn't work she had ever wanted to do, but the survival of her species demanded every possible advantage. Within 5 years, Earth launched its first fleet of fusion-powered warships toward the outer rim of known space. The ships carried weapons based on alien technology but designed with human ruthlessness. More importantly, they carried crews trained in tactical thinking that no alien mind could comprehend. The message they transmitted ahead of their arrival was simple and direct. Humanity would forge its own path among the stars. Any species that stood in their way would face the same fate as those who had tried to enslave them. Behind them, Earth continued its transformation. The stolen alien technology had indeed revolutionized human civilization, but not in the way the consortium had planned. Instead of creating a dependent client species, it had armed humanity for a war that would determine whether creativity or stability would rule the galaxy. The fear mentioned in the ancient message had become reality on both sides. The aliens feared what they had awakened in humanity's competitive nature, and humanity feared what they would have to become to survive in a universe where cooperation could be a trap and peaceful intentions could mask enslavement. The 12 humans who had begun this journey as ambassadors watched their species prepare for interstellar war. They had set out to make friends among the stars and return to transform humanity into something the galaxy had never seen before. Emma stood in the observation deck of the newly constructed orbital shipyard, watching the latest batch of human warships complete their final tests. Each vessel incorporated lessons learned from alien technology, but filtered through human tactical thinking that prioritized adaptability over perfection. The ships were deliberately imperfect by consortium standards. Their systems could be modified in the field, their weapons could be reconfigured for different targets, and their crews were trained to think independently rather than follow predetermined protocols. They were everything the aliens were not: chaotic, unpredictable, and dangerous. Captain Reeves commanded one of the new vessels, a hybrid design that combined alien energy systems with human engineering philosophy. His crew included veterans from Earth's military conflicts, people who understood that survival sometimes required breaking rules and thinking outside established parameters. Dr. Hassan had become the head of Earth's Advanced Weapons Research Program. The fusion technology they had stolen was being weaponized in ways the aliens had never imagined. Energy systems designed for construction and healing were being converted into instruments of destruction that could shatter planets or sterilize entire star systems. The moral implications kept Dr. Wright awake at night. Humanity was abandoning its peaceful aspirations to become exactly the kind of aggressive species that the consortium had claimed to protect the galaxy from. But the alternative was enslavement disguised as salvation. Maria Santos coordinated intelligence operations that reached across known space. Human agents, equipped with modified alien technology, infiltrated consortium worlds to gather information about their defenses and capabilities. What they discovered confirmed everyone's worst fears. The aliens were preparing for war on a scale that dwarfed human comprehension. Fleets numbering in the thousands were being assembled from across consortium space. The collective response: To humanity's theft and escape was exactly what Dr. Wright had predicted. Overwhelming force applied without creativity or subtlety. But intelligence also revealed weaknesses. The consortium species were struggling to coordinate their response because they had no experience with genuine conflict. Their peaceful nature, which had been their greatest strength for millennia, was now a critical vulnerability. Commander Torres had been promoted to head Earth's military planning division. His strategies took advantage of everything they had learned about alien psychology. Human forces would strike unpredictably, using tactics that violated every principle of civilized warfare the aliens held sacred. Anna Kowalski designed the weapons that would make those tactics possible. Fusion bombs that could be assembled from seemingly harmless components. Nanomachines that could infiltrate and sabotage alien technology from within. Information viruses that could disrupt the collective thinking processes that held alien societies together. The first battle came sooner than expected. A consortium scout fleet arrived at the edge of the solar system, probably intending to assess Earth's defenses before the main invasion. Instead, they encountered a human task force that had been waiting in the asteroid belt. The engagement lasted less than an hour. The alien ships were more advanced than their human counterparts, but they fought according to predictable protocols designed for police actions against rebellious clients. The human fleet ignored those protocols entirely, using suicide runs, false surrenders, and coordinated attacks on civilian infrastructure that the aliens had never imagined. When the surviving consortium ships retreated, they carried with them the knowledge that humanity had become something unprecedented in galactic history, a species that combined advanced technology with ruthless pragmatism, capable of innovations that their collective intelligence couldn't counter. The war that followed would reshape the galaxy. Humanity's stolen technology gave them the tools they needed, but their competitive nature gave them something far more valuable: the ability to adapt and evolve in ways that their enemies couldn't match. Years later, when historians studied the conflict, they would identify the moment when 12 humans returned to Earth with 60 fusion reactors as the turning point that determined the future of intelligent life among the stars. The consortium had sought to harvest human creativity for their own purposes, but instead had unleashed it upon a galaxy unprepared for the chaos that true innovation could bring. The fear that both sides felt was justified. The aliens had indeed awakened something terrible in humanity's nature, and humanity had discovered that sometimes survival required becoming the monsters their enemies believed them to be. But in the end, it was creativity that won the war, not cruelty. Human ingenuity found solutions that no collective intelligence could imagine, proving that the chaotic spark of individual thought was more powerful than the refined wisdom of ages. The galaxy would never be the same.